So tell your major or...
Yeah. Hello again. I'm Bhakti. I'm a student of economics and I'm in 3rd year right now.
Okay. Hi again. I'm Aditya. I'm doing my master's in development studies and I'm in my 3rd year.
Hi. Yeah. Hi. I think we're all 3rd years. No, I mean we're all 3rd years. So, and I'm doing my master's in development studies.
Okay, now the 4 of you on camera in Cairo, would you say hello?
Yeah, hi. How are you?
Man.
Hi, my name is Walid. I'm from Yemen. 3rd year political science.
Hi, I'm Farah. I'm a business major and it's my 3rd year.
Hi, I'm Aziz. I'm an architecture major and I'm in my 5th year.
Hi, I'm Mohamed. I'm a petroleum engineering student. I'm graduating senior.
Good. Okay. Now we'll do another group. Whoops. Yeah. There. Okay.
Hi, I'm Sahil, and I'm majoring in economics.
Hi, I'm Tara. I'm also majoring in economics.
Hi, I'm Mukesh. I'm majoring in development studies.
Okay. Now, Mr. Rami, can you pan so we can see some other students?
Actually, we have one.
That's all you have so far? Okay.
One coming in. Yay.
Okay. Okay, so we'll just keep going on our side. Okay, go ahead. What happened?
Hi, I'm Kavya and I'm majoring in development studies. I feel like I should apologize for my throat.
Yeah, she has a sore throat, but she's being very brave and sitting in the speaker's chair. Yes.
Thank you.
What's the name of the student who just came in? What's your name and major?
My name is Karim. I'm a political science major. Hi.
Wonderful. Ladies who just came in here, would you sit in the front row, please? Thank you very much. Okay, has everyone introduced on this side? No, please come. Who did not introduce on this side? We all did. Okay, well, students, how do I address you? Students of AUC? Is that a good way?
Yeah, that's okay. Anything's okay. Like whatever you find easier, just go ahead with it.
Excellent. Okay, so we have a number of possible topics today, but what we're really trying to get at is identity. Who am I? Who are you? As in terms of nationhood, and we are looking at a number of different ways to discover who one is. One way is in terms of the language one uses, and so we've been thinking about local ways that English is used, how English is used in an Egyptian way, how it's used in an Indian way. I'm from the USA myself, so I could even say ways that English is used in the USA. And then we have a number of different possible subjects, which we can just go to the ones that seem most interesting. One that especially your Professor Mohamed recommended is looking at ways in which things are recycled. And it turns out there's a word in Hindi which refers to how things are passed down and recycled. Jugad? Jugad. So some of our students can talk about that. Then some of our students can talk about some characters from our folk tales and epics here in India. Did anyone have any particular? Was anyone want to talk about Karna at all? Or Draupadi? Did anyone have any particular characters in mind? Well, they might come out. And then, you know, national heroes. In India, in the old days, the national hero was Mahatma Gandhi. So we began discussing here the other day how young people feel about Mahatma Gandhi. Do they see Mahatma Gandhi differently? Do they have other heroes? And then another possible activity is if you were stranded with your classmates on an island in the middle of the ocean, what are some of the first things that you would do? And I'm not sure if Egyptian students would do anything different than Indian students, but possibly. So with all those different options in mind, and I'm sure I'm missing a few of them, do any of those stand out to any of you as something especially interesting to talk about?
Hi, I really want to know, like, the Gandhi, the hero story. I want to know, like, what Gandhi represents to like the Indians.
Okay,
Indian youth,
wonderful.
Indian youth.
Yes, well,
and I also really like the on an island idea. I want to know what we do and how we do it differently or the same. Like,
okay, well, what would you do first on an island?
Yes, you're friends with the classmates.
Like, are we on an island where we can't get out, like Lost?
Yes.
You guys watch Lost?
Yes.
Okay. So probably the first thing we do is like find shelter and then create equipment that we can use to hunt.
Well, people who vegetarian would not hunt. They would probably gather, you know, vegetables and berries. But the non-veg people would hunt.
I think we'd try to have a balanced diet, maybe.
Go for a jog every day, okay. Anyone else? What would you do? If we were an island, we wouldn't be able to have a video conferencing practice, which would be a shame, really. But I think we would all, you know, end up doing the first initial thing of survival, trying to find food and shelter, basically, basic human instincts, I guess. What did your students have to say about that?
I guess the question is, after the basic survival issues of food and shelter, what would come next? Would you make a religious shrine? Would you no? Would you make a school?
Like, so we're trying to start a new civilization. Is this the?
Yeah, we try to.
Yeah, probably we mate. But we only have 2 girls here.
Didn't hear. Someone on this side has mentioned playing cricket, that they would get a cricket game. So you'd have to make a bat and a ball out of local materials. Not difficult? Okay. Okay, well, we can come back to this. Well, what about this question of Mahatma Gandhi? What do you think? How is you know Mahatma Gandhi is on the money in India, and the faces of statespeople that's on the money really does tell you a lot about who is important in a country. So, how do you think Mahatma Gandhi is? How does he mean something different to you than what he means to your parents in general? Do you have a general feeling about that?
I think we, not necessarily our parents, but we relate to Gandhi differently than our grandparents, because a lot of our grandparents were born during the time of the freedom struggle and they were involved in the freedom struggle. We read Gandhi as history, and we didn't have, like, we weren't there when his movement was in its full swing. So we'd probably reflect on it more. We'd have different ideas from what the mainstream idea is of Gandhi, and we'd probably be a little bit more critical as well.
I think there is a conception that some of Gandhi's ideas, at least among our generation, we feel that some of those ideas are outdated, or maybe not relevant to the kind of world we live in right now. And the conception that Gandhi still remains the national hero in India is, I would say, probably not an accurate one.
I don't think he was ever the national hero.
He was. I think during the at least 1940, 1947 time.
No, but actually I think his ideas are far more relevant today. As in, I think awfully people are realizing that his ideas are more relevant because the way society itself has turned out and the kind of what this generation has been studying from, and we find his ideas more relevant. So he's not just a symbol of freedom for us, but we, like he said, we see him more critically as a representing a set of ideologies or another way of living that we could probably ascribe to.
Well, Gandhi is especially famous for non-violent resistance. But now that India is really formed as a nation, the question is, you know, what would people resist against? You don't have Britain, you don't have the British to resist against anymore.
Which is where the concept of India against corruption and things like that are coming from, right? So, I mean, I think that's one of the reasons we're so critical about Gandhi today, is because one, he may be misused, his ideologies may be misused, and two, I think there are things that we focus on that.
Mm-hmm. Now, I know you in Cairo are in a different situation than we are here in India, in that in Egypt, you are in a moment of nation building. Isn't that true? I mean, do you have a new constitution, or is your constitution in the process of being rewritten?
Yeah, it's being rewritten still. There's still a committee rewriting the constitution. But there's still a lot of disagreements about how it should be written, who should write it, and who should be in the committee. So it's still an ongoing process. Yeah, it's not done yet.
And I know that your professor is actually he's one of the co-founders of the Egyptian Freedom Party, is it correct?
Yes, it is. Yes.
So, has Professor come yet on your side?
He's
on his way.
Yeah.
That's fine. But so you students there in Cairo are in a very dramatic and exciting moment, in that the development of your country is really happening there in the midst of you, right? Including with your professor. Do you find it exciting? Do you find it scary? How do you feel about it?
I think it's the combination of both. Like, it's very exciting, but it's very uncertain too, because there's been a lot of political unrest, or there are several parties now. That there's the rise of the Islamist movement, and there's also now the Muslim Brotherhood are they have the most chairs in parliament. They have the president is an ex-member of the Muslim Brotherhood, so he has their background and their views.
Although he tries to come off.
Of course, he's now called the president of the revolution, so he's trying to he's trying. I'm not saying that he is, but he's trying to please as much people as he can, from the population in Iran.
What about you? What do you think?
There's still a lot of uncertainty going on in the political scene. That's why I think it's exciting to witness a revolution and all the things that come with it, like the first a really democratic election of a new president and the formation of a parliament and the rewriting of a constitution. But at the same time, you're still really uncertain about what's going to be the future of our country. The constitution, there's still a lot of disagreements about how it's going to be written. So we're not sure the direction that the country is going in. So that's the uncertain part with the scary part. But it is exciting to be a part of it, of course.
But I also think that
I just have a question. Over the past year, we've been reading a lot about the protests in Egypt and how there was a lot of student involvement. So to what level were you personally engaged in those protests, and to what level did you participate in them, if you did at all?
Do you want me to go into details, or should I be quick? Like there, like during the very first day of the revolution, like I personally didn't even go because I didn't know. No one in Egypt expected that it would be that much. Like it would result in like the removal of the president who's been there for 30 years. Like no one, it wasn't even like, it didn't even cross anyone's mind. And then like the day, that was on a Tuesday. The Friday after it, they decided to like cut. They knew that there was going to be another protest, and they decided to like cut off all communications. They cut off the internet. They cut off mobile phones. They cut off everything, so people couldn't communicate. So what the people did, like they expected people to stay home, but everyone went down to the streets. And then it was like, this was the only violent, or like the most violent day in the revolution. Like over the whole revolution, like less than, I don't know, I think it's like 1,000 or something people died. So compared like with figures of like the French Revolution or most of the other revolutions, or other revolutions of the Arab Spring, it was like mostly peaceful. So this was the day that they like used tear gas bombs and like elastic bullets and stuff like that. And then this was like their response to the people being there was like the trigger for like people continuing to stay there until they left. And then they tried to do like several things. They tried to pull the police off the streets so that it wouldn't be safe. And there was a national curfew, like after 4 p.m. or 5 p.m. you couldn't go down the street. And then because there was no police, like there was like the, I don't know, criminals and the thugs. Everyone was escaping, and they were trying to like get whatever they could. So like this was my favorite part of the revolution, where we as like the locals went down and had to protect our own homes, and like we formed like
watch groups in our neighborhoods, basically
watch groups, yeah. And we were like, we stopped every car, asked for license registration, asked for like where they're going, why they're going, and like it was very, very like.
Well, what language do you use to describe what you are seeking? Do people there talk about democracy? And if so, what does democracy mean?
There was a lot of requests from the revolution, such as social justice, freedom, the ability. The people were really oppressed, and the corruption reached a really high degree in every part of the country. So people were really fed up. They're not the illiteracy rate in the country is really high. The poverty, a lot of the population is under the poverty line. There's so much corruption. There's so much oppression from the police, from everything. So people were fed up. So they had a list of demands. Demanding social justice, demanding
freedom of speech.
Yeah, freedom of speech, and the president leave, because he's been there for 30 years, and 30 years of oppression. So the country as a whole, without planning, grouped on a list of demands that the basic needs of everyone, that needs freedom, social justice.
Do you believe that these things are being achieved now, or we're on our way of achieving them? Has anything changed? I mean,
after a revolution, a transition period is expected. Not everything. It doesn't go from seriously bad to seriously good in a day. We expect a transitional period but you have to see the steps that are made in the right direction. Some steps are being made in the right direction in some sectors. Maybe in the economic sector, maybe in some sectors,
political especially. Like now. The president can't stay for more than 2 periods. There are like lots of I think now they're mostly concerned with politics, and they should be more concerned with development, like education and healthcare, and like basic needs that allow you to develop. Like if you don't have these, if you don't have the food, the shelter, the healthcare, the education, how could you develop? But we're still like very early in our transition phase, and I think there's a lot of optimism, but
there's a lot of uncertainty.
But there's a lot of uncertainty, and different people want different things, and not everything you want is done, and not like.
But I believe the upper class wants different things than the middle class, which is very small, and then there's the lower class, which is huge, and this is the class that needs the most. However, you can't contribute to the poverty without facilitating the businesses of the upper class and making sure that they can run their businesses and employ these people from the middle and lower class. So you have all of these directions that we need to go in, but what is being done first to help out? Like, are there any new laws or what should be done in the constitution? What do you think that should be put in specifically to protect different parts, classes in Egypt? If we divide them into the three classes.
Okay. So like things that could.
Why don't we think about that question, and let's come back to it in a little while. And in fact, this reminds me of the discussion of if you were on an island, what would you do? Because you're kind of in a related situation, starting from scratch, and how to create a society. But let's go to cultural.
Can we hear from your side? Can we hear from your side, like what do you do if you're on an island?
Okay, and also let's bring out some of our expressions that we use linguistically and favorite characters from stories. So regarding language, let me just begin by telling about two phrases that I've heard here in India, which I never heard back in the States, which were, please do the necessary. Do you have that expression in Egypt?
Of course. We have it. We actually have a word for it. Like, it means, please do the necessary quickly. Like, get done with it.
Yeah, it's a word in Arabic.
It's slang though. Slang is called English. English means get it done quickly.
What is it in English or Arabic or some other language?
Arabic. It's Arabic. It's slang, but it's street Arabic. It's not derived from a word. It's a word.
Can you say it, or would it be rude to say it in this context, or can you say it? Can you say the word?
It's not
rude, but it's kind of
it's not rude, but it's very, very forward. Like
okay, good. But what it means to me is that it's saying I don't really want to know the details, but you know the details, so do what needs to be done and get the result. And then there's another one, the spirit of cooperation. Do people talk about the spirit of cooperation in Egypt? The spirit of cooperation?
I think Egypt is a very, 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 like, our population is very cooperative and it's very collective. Like, we like to do everything together. Like, even if I need to go buy groceries and my friend doesn't, like, a group of my friends can come with me just for the company, because that's how we do it.
So you know that term. So you know that term, the spirit of cooperation.
Yeah.
You've heard that term before.
Yes.
Okay, students here, do you have any comments about these two terms? Please do the necessary and spirit of cooperation, or do you want to mention some other terms? Which one? What? Explain what that means.
We have this expression called seat sharing. Like it's when in a multi-party democracy, when 2 or 3 parties, when they combine to form a majority, they share the seats among themselves. Like which guy gets which portfolio, which minister gets which portfolio, and who becomes the prime minister. It's called seat sharing.
And so it means, again, it relates to spirit of cooperation? No? Why no? Sharing and cooperation go together.
I think it reflects more on bargaining and.
It has a negative connotation.
It has a negative connotation.
So I think partly because of the legacy of Mahatma Gandhi, a cliche about Indian culture is that Indian culture often involves cooperating, sharing, giving up one's desires, sacrificing, self-sacrifice, sacrificing one's own desires, so to do what your family wants you to do. And I'm thinking even of when Sonia Gandhi said, "No, I don't want to be prime minister." She had a chance to have the power, but she, what's the word, abnegated or. So this sort of self-sacrifice, at least idealistically, seems to be an ideal in Indian culture. Is there anything like that in Egypt?
Baradei, have you heard of Dr.Mohamed Baradei? He's a Nobel Prize winner.
Yes.
Tell us more about him.
Well, he was the head of. He was the head of the nuclear power energy something committee of in the UN. And then he used to live abroad, and there was like some controversy about him,
he used to live abroad, but a couple of years back he started coming back to Egypt when he saw that the situation in Egypt has reached a really poor standard. So he started to come back and started to suggest some reforms for the people. Economic reforms, started to call for the economic reforms, social reforms, and political reforms. That's why the previous regime started to paint him as how do you say it? As a traitor, or someone who has the Western interests at heart and not Egypt's interests at heart. They started slandering him and everything. And he was one of the main protagonists in the revolution, one of the main people behind the revolution. And when the revolution happened, he could have seized power, and there was a presidential election coming, and he was one of the candidates. But when he saw that the political scene is being manipulated and it's not what he wanted for Egypt after the revolution, he chose to recuse himself, and he didn't participate, and he didn't become a candidate. So that's an example. I think it's similar.
And what he's doing now, he's very involved in working outside, and not under the spotlight, but he's working behind the scenes.
He formed a new party. It's called the Constitution, which means the Constitution. He formed a new party, and he's really active. But from behind the scenes, he didn't want to seize power, except when he saw that it's fit and the environment is fit for him to seize the power. So that's, I think, is a similar example.
Can I ask you two questions?
Go ahead.
Okay, my first question is who is your modern day Gandhi? Or what does he represent? And also this is something very interesting. I used to think that there are things that I would only see in Egypt, for example, when there was a street lamp in one of the streets, the person wanted to do a balcony, so he just came out of the balcony and took the lamp around, I can't explain it, but basically the lamp is passing through his balcony, the street lamp passes through his balcony. He wanted to go out to the balcony, out of the building, if you can understand me. I don't know if you can. We just saw an example of, for example, of creativity, of how people turned. This was in India, so that's why I'm asking, what examples you have? We saw a motorcycle that was one-seater or two-seaters, and then someone created an extension behind it for it to be able to take 5 or 6 people. So we have the exact same thing.
Yes, actually, The way that traffic works in India does have a lot to do with the spirit of cooperation. Both in terms of many people on one vehicle, and also the different types of vehicles. There'll be someone on a bicycle. There'll be a cart being pulled by bullocks. There'll be a car. There'll be a big truck. And when they all, when they have to pass each other on a one-lane road, everybody will adjust in a certain way so that everyone knows what to do to avoid crashing. So that's one place the spirit of cooperation often does work.
I would beg to differ there.
Okay.
I don't think it's a lot to do with cooperation. Also, in India, people do have big families, and sometimes they can't afford to have more than one vehicle, and so it's more of an adjustment. And that's where I would call jugaad is one of the terms that could be used, because that's how you may do with
whatever you have,
and that's how you.
So please give some more examples of jugaad in the home. What are some examples of it?
I think the concept of a share auto, which we have in India, is an example of jugaad. So, do you guys know what an auto rickshaw is? Have you seen pictures? No, probably not. Basically, you have a sort of three-wheeler. It's a three-wheeler, and it's a sort of cab or taxi form of public transport. And so we've adapted that to
fit more than 8 people.
To fit more than 8 people, basically. So it actually seats around 3-4 people. But then you have a system where you share an auto, like total strangers share the same auto, and so thereby reducing costs for everyone. Yeah, cheaper for everyone.
Carpooling, a bit like carpooling.
It's more like carpooling.
Like if you could pool a taxi, yes, it would be the closest.
But somebody was also mentioning the other day of passing clothes between, like, older children to younger children.
I think that happens everywhere. Like if your clothes are too small for you, just like pass.
But it doesn't happen if everyone is living in a nuclear family. It doesn't happen as much. It happens more in an extended family living together.
Yeah, I think it's a question of having.
Question of siblings.
It's a question of having those clothes being available and being able to afford new clothes, not being able to afford new clothes.
And what about reusing bottles? Somebody mentioned reusing bottles for different purposes.
Yeah,
Wait a minute, I'm going to zoom over to you. Oh, by the way, we're a little bit past halfway through this event, so we have another 20 students off camera. If any of you would like to come here and exchange places with the speakers, please do. Okay, just do this informally over the next 25 minutes. If anyone wants to come up, make eye contact, and okay? Good, very good. And Professor Mohamed?
Yes?
We want to greet you and thank you.
No, thanks definitely, Eric, for this. It's gone very smoothly so far, so this is very nice. We're very happy to have these new students. I think our students are also having a different experience. I mean, this setting, for the most part, is really different from what we would usually have. So thanks a lot. I mean, let's keep going.
How is it different from the norm?
It's different in the sense that first off, the topic is different. It's very sort of cultural, also open to it's personal experiences and stuff. Even the readings were different in this sense, dealing with everyday activities, dealing with personal experiences rather than topical themes or macro issues. So in this sense, it's interesting. Also, on your side, it's interesting to have the students alternating during the session. This is also quite different for us. I think also for our students, for the most part, they just speak in their minds also. So it's in this sense, it's quite interesting.
Great, and we want to thank you for your letting us be a part of your South-South dialogue class. We're aware that you're video conferencing with universities in Indonesia and South Africa and really all over the world, and we're honored to be a part of it. And I personally am honored to be conversing with you and your students, because I've realized that you are a leader in Egypt, involved in politics and all, and helping to shape your nation. No, seriously. And students. He is a political leader, and we're really honored that he's talking with us. And you students in Egypt, I'm sure you're very honored that you're in Professor Mohammed's class.
We're honored that we're talking to you. Honored ours.
Very good.
Great.
Okay.
All right. So, Eric, would you like? We've had a lot of ideas in our plate when we were preparing for this session, and I understand that also on your side there were certain ideas or themes that were more interesting for the group than others. I think one of the interesting also ideas I heard here talking about the personal heroes. I'm not sure how much of that is interesting also on the Indian side. And I think there were also references. Yeah, please.
Actually, we began to talk about that and about language and the concepts especially of sharing and cooperation. And of course, these ideals are not always followed. Sometimes the opposite is done, but still they remain ideals. And I am interested in especially one character from the Mahabharata epic. His name is Karna. And I lead storytelling workshops, and often people talk about Karna as being putting others' interests above his own, sacrificing himself for others. Even when he was on his deathbed, he wanted to make sure that somebody would get his eyes. He donated his organs. So I'm wondering if any of the students here could say a few more words about Karna and how he represents this spirit of helping others even more than oneself. Does anyone have any thoughts about it?
So, Karna is the ultimate tragic hero in the greatest Indian epic. It's called the Mahabharata, and he was to simply put, he was a good guy stuck on the wrong side.
Okay. Yeah, go ahead. Say it again.
Simplistically, so Karna, very simplistically put, he's a good guy stuck on the wrong side, and in his formative years, he angered many sages and many gods by doing certain righteous things. Like he was of a lower caste, but he wanted to be a warrior.
He had no caste.
Okay. He was of a lower caste. So and he wanted to be a warrior, and only the warrior class can learn the warrior skills. So when the sage finds out that he's wanted to be, that he's of a low class, he curses him, saying, "None of what I've taught you will ever come to you when you need it the most." And he helps a little girl to get some oil that has been spilled on the ground. And while helping a little girl, the Mother Earth curses him, saying that in your moment when you need me the most to help you, I will not help you. So you can see the kind of character that he is. That he's a good guy stuck on the wrong side, and
he defends himself being on the wrong side, even though he knows that he's on the side of Kauravas and they are perpetuating atrocities. He still sides with them because, in his view, his brothers, like the Pandavas, they have disowned him as such. Their mother has disowned him, so he owes his allegiance to the big villain in the Mahabharata, that is Duryodhana, and he values this above everything else, despite his knowing that there will only be defeat in the end. It's like he's sacrificing himself, even though knowing that he'll end up in defeat anyway. So,
represents loyalty.
It represents loyalty and sacrifice in the face of odds.
I have a question. some time ago you guys were talking about economic reform. So the thing is, right now in India we are going through this period of economic reform, and there's a lot of debate over whether this kind of reform is actually helping a large number of the people, or is actually in favor of vested interests. So is that kind of thing happening in Egypt as well, or how is it going in Egypt?
Like, the gap in Egypt between the rich and the poor is huge, and like, until recently the rich were getting richer, the poor were getting poorer. I'm not saying anything is changing, but they're trying. Like, they're
I think it's still too early to decide whether, like, the economic reformations are put into action or not. There have been, like, good gestures from the new president by going around the world, trying to get funds, trying to get money from the IMF and getting foreign direct investment. But before the revolution, I think that was the case. There was what they call neoliberalism, which favored Western interest in the global market. But ever since the revolution, we're still waiting for the newer reforms. It's still too early to decide what, like, to see the effects. But we'll see.
Okay. Eric, I think you had a question also in reference to the same theme, that we were talking about prior, the theme of the character of Kaba and in the case of India. You were making reference also to examples from the Egyptian case, if I remember correctly. And you were asking about a particular figure, and that was Abu Zayd al-Hilali, if I remember rightly, from the Bani Hilal epic.
Yes, I'm not sure if students here are aware that there's a famous epic in Egypt about a leader who led a group of people on a migration. Yes, so please tell us about that character. Abu Zayd.
All right, so what do we know about Abu Zayd al-Hilali? You must know something.
What cultural ideals does he embody?
So we're not familiar at all with that character of Abu Zayd al-Hilali? We haven't heard about that before?
I heard about it.
Okay. You heard the name? Yes. Any references to the name? Implications? No? So it's kind of interesting that the students, at least they claim they're not familiar with the character of Abu Zayd al-Hilali. Well, he's basically a character from Upper Egypt. He's known to be from a different ethnic origin, so he's not ethnically Egyptian. He was more on the side of African, sub-Saharan African in this sense. He is famous and known for his bravery, courageousness, and also ability to lead his own people at times when they were exposed to persecution from leading families there. And actually his epic is more of what's described in Arabic as a seerah. And seerah means in this sense it's an ongoing set of stories and also cultural sort of activities. Like, say, you have songs, you have poetry, you have a lot of cultural manifestations documenting the experience of Bani Hilal and Seerah Bani Hilal. And up until now, actually, this is one of the interesting sort of folk tales and also folk forms of folk culture, in terms of music, art, and other also features of cultural activities up until now in Egypt. And it will be interesting, really, I mean, seeing that some of the students here are not that familiar with these manifestations, maybe that this should be the subject also of some of our studies here.
I have a question.
Yes.
You spoke about something that came across as being essentially Egyptian. So this addressed to the students. how different is an Egyptian identity from the larger Arabic identity or the Arab identity that you also hold?
Thanks. That's an interesting question. What do you guys think? What is the difference between the Egyptian and the Arab identity as well?
Being Egyptian is part of being an Arab, and I find myself as being Egyptian as well as an Arab as well as a Muslim and it's all part of my identity, and it's not separate. I don't of course first I'm Egyptian, but at the same time I'm Arab, and so it's been
I think Egypt has been Egypt, and far before being Arab, and I don't know how to say it.
Okay.
Egypt has been Egypt far before.
I think Egypt is. I think our influence on Arab countries is more than they influence us, because first of all, like mainstream media, like all of the most famous Arab singers and Arab movies and Arab poems and stuff are mostly Egyptian. So like. I see Egypt as kind of a leader of the Arab world, and I think we have very, very, very different, like we do have similar beliefs, but we have very different like lifestyles, because they have different laws and they have and there are 23 different countries. You can't expect them all to be the same. Like even our language is different. Like. It's all Arabic, but it's different dialects of Arabic. So,
okay. In response to this question, I think I'd like to maybe ask one of the students here, Walid, who's obviously living here in Egypt, but he comes from Yemen. So maybe he can tell us a little bit about different sorts of cultural maybe traits he would identify between the Yemeni and the Egyptian case.
Well, as I said, I've been living here for 3 years, so I got used to the culture in Egypt. But one of the main differences that I see here is that it's part of the cooperation or the spirit of cooperation that exists in Egypt. The togetherness or the collectiveness of people is not the same as in Yemen. I see people in Yemen, they do care more about the family, like the extended family, more than in Egypt, where the nuclear family, which is the mom, dad, and the brother and sister. So this sense of collectiveness or togetherness influences the way we deal with others. Like we do care a lot about each other in case of an emergency, or in case of maybe a problem. We all gather together in order to solve that problem. We don't prefer to know that much. We prefer solving that problem within us. The role of the government is not that big in Yemen. It's mostly it's either the tribe or the big house or the leader of the family who decides what to be done and what to be said, when and how. That's not the same in Egypt. It's modernized in Egypt. People refer to law more. I also see that the language itself or the dialect itself is different. Our dialect is closer to the Fusha, which is the main Arabic language. In Egypt it's a bit different, and it's influencing all other countries, as I said, because of the media and the dominance of the film industry in Egypt. But what's sad to know is that the stereotype that has been reflected on Yemen is that we are not modernized enough. That's not true, because we are also civilized, and in a way or another we also use internet and Facebook, and we don't ride camels. And I don't know, but I've done also other conferences with students from the States, and the perception about us as Yemenis are those who hold guns and just walk in the street with the white piece of cloth and the dagger, and that's it. Well, that's not true. It's part of our culture, but it's not the dominant culture in Yemen. As you go from north to south, you notice that the northern part of Yemen is mostly tribal. But as you go to the south, you start to see civilization or modernity step by step. And besides that, there's also besides the cultural difference, there's also the religious difference. Like Yemen, it seems to be a country that holds 3 different religions. We have Jews, Christians, and Muslims, and also different sects of Muslims. We have the Shia, the Sunnah, and the Zaydis also, part of the Shia as well. So this diversity also is not noticed that much by others. They think that we are all one group, and this group of people have the same traits or the same characteristics, which is not true. So I guess I'll stop here and give the floor to others.
Thanks. All right, on to your side, Eric.
Okay, well, yes, go ahead. We have about 5 or 10 more minutes now, so this is the time to ask your questions and talk about what makes you Indian or what makes you Egyptian. So yes, go ahead. Start. Some students over here. Go ahead.
I just want to ask, like, okay, go ahead, please. No, go.
Okay, I have a question. What is your conception of an Indian?
Okay. I lived with 3 Indians last year. Like, I was doing a year abroad in the US, and they're actually like 3 of the smartest people I've met. Like, I'm very serious. Like, I think, like, if you even if you look at the list of like the richest men in the world, like a few of them are Indian, right? Of the top 10. I think India. My perception of India as a country is that it's like it's on the right track of development. Like I think they're very similar to us too. Like, except like we just had our revolution, so we're at different stages. But I think we're very close. I think you have very distinctive food.
Okay, may we hear also from other maybe students? Yes, Waleed.
Can I add one point? What's interesting is also that Yemen has been linked to India back in the days. The road of trade, it was India, Yemen, and then the rest of the world. So if you're familiar with the, of course you're familiar with the biryani. It's famous in Yemen. It's famous and it's one of the main dishes in Yemen. So that was the something.
It's actually true. I mean, I know of many, not many, but at least a few Yemeni Indians across sort of families that are interlinked between Yemen and India. But okay, this is your perception of India. What about your perception of the Indians themselves? I mean, for instance, you said that you met or that you had 3 Indians as classmates. Expectations before and after, maybe for what to have from them. Farah, would you like to say something?
I wanted to say, like, I've always had the perception about Indians that they are a creative folk. Like, for example, if I'm noticing the silver things that your country are famous with, like the jewelry, the handmade, the stones and these things. So I've always thought that you are a very creative folk, and that you use your hands a lot. So it's not only about like automation and these things. So you're creative.
Did you want to say something?
Yeah, I want to ask if, like, what's your perception of Egyptians, and I also want to know, like, if you're abroad and, like, let's forget, like, appearances, but how can you tell that someone is Indian just by, like, looking at them? Can you tell? And, like, how can you tell?
And what was your question?
My question was to the girl. What does it mean to be a woman in, like, modern Egypt in the face of the revolution? As in, what's the role of woman? What's the position of a woman?
Okay. These are too many questions on our plate. I think we'd have maybe to try and be a bit efficient. So you have the task of responding to this question in less than a minute.
Okay. From my experience, like, I wasn't engaged that much with the revolution stuff. Like, I didn't go to the square, I didn't protest, like, personally, physically protesting. But as far as I know, that, like, all people, not only women, all people after the revolution, they had this feeling of social responsibility, like more participating with the laws, with the constitution, with the political regime in general. That wasn't the case before the revolution. I'm talking about myself at least. Like, I think we gain psychologically we gain more power. So, like, women, they have the right of, like, they go to the square, they protest, they make interviews, they say their opinions,
Wasn't there a women in the presidential campaign?
Okay. Yes, there was. Okay. There were also two questions to our partners in India. I'm not sure if we will be able to answer them efficiently.
One question was, what is the Indian view of Egyptians? And I would ask, what is that view, and has it changed in any of you today? Do you have any new ideas about Egyptians after this conversation? Somebody speak.
Truthfully, I don't think we've been very exposed to Egyptians as such as Indians, but I think this was a very good opportunity to know all of you. And I think truthfully, the only actual knowledge about Egyptians we actually know is through history. So, Egyptian mythology or Egyptian civilization. So, in that way, I guess this is a good opportunity for us. And more importantly, the present revolution that all of you are facing, we through history can relate a lot to that, and that is something very getting us connected to the Egyptian identity.
I have a question.
Okay, there was also another question from this side regarding how to identify an Indian, if you're an Indian.
Regardless of appearances, like
regardless of appearances,
personality,
traits.
What was this question?
Identify an Indian through personality trait.
Yes. How do you know if someone is an Indian?
Again, I think that question I don't think can be accurately answered purely because India is such a diverse country, and there are different traits you find in different parts of India. You'd find different categories of, different personality traits you'd associate with people from North India, people from South India. So I don't think there's this universal sort of thing that Indianness, there's no universal Indianness as such.
Black hair.
Well, I think as an outsider, I can give an answer. I think in general, Indian people are very warm and generally don't want to disappoint you. So sometimes even if they don't have something, they won't say it. They'll let you think they have it, and then later you find out they don't have it.
So it's very similar.
It's very similar to the case of Egypt as well. Yeah, a difficult example here is with directions. You know, if you would like to ask for directions on the road, you will never get an answer, even if the person does not know. He'll never tell you that I don't know. You know, he'll always say that you should do something, although he or she might not really know where the place is.
But I feel it's coming out of warmth and good intentions.
Yes, yes.
You know, the people are going to disappoint each other.
Yes, that's right. That's right.
She had a question.
Who had a question?
She has.
What was the
One
question?
question on our side here, yes.
Yeah. Like, for you as Indians, how would you rate yourself being patriotic? Like, what does patriotism mean for you? Like, do you have the vision of, you have the perception of changing your, like, going outside, studying abroad, coming back again, or like just moving out? So do you have these perceptions? Because here in Egypt, for example, like after the revolution, we had like two perceptions. It's either people out of fear they've escaped, or they had this feeling of patriotic feeling. It was like more, and people want to stay here. They don't want to travel. They want to sustain their culture.
There's no quiz. I think that different people have different conceptions here. Like I think within like the 8 of us who are sitting here, we have different ideas of how we see India today. I think for me personally, I don't think I'm a particularly patriotic person. I'm not particularly fond of my country as it is right now. And yeah, I guess at some point of time in the future, yeah, it would be nice to say I'll be part of the change and all that. But right now, I'm feeling a little cynical about it.
Can I answer?
Yeah.
So the thing is, the way we are located in our society also, we're faced with so much diversity. The country itself has so many states, and every state has its different language. So when you ask us who we are, how we identify ourselves, we'll actually firstly identify ourselves with our state, as well as our simultaneous Indian identity. So I would call myself Tamilian, and that is a unique identity in itself. So that perception changes. So patriotism in itself is not very dominant when we try to identify ourselves as Indians. But when talking about the economy, or when talking about our political context, and in that point of time, I think, I'm pretty sure all of us would agree, our Indian identity still holds well.
Yeah.
And cricket.
Cricket and which question?
We have one question. It's a very so we would like to know how you guys use language. I mean, what languages you guys use at home with your friends? Do you guys talk in English? Do you guys talk in Arabic? Or how you use language in daily life, basically?
Alright, so how do we use language? How do you guys, but first off, let's just keep the accounts to personal accounts, then maybe if you want to talk about social or generic, but as individuals, how do you use language? Yes, okay.
We use Arabic most of the time. There's the slang, there's slang Arabic, and there's the formal Arabic. And there's the slang Arabic which you use every single day with your parents, with your friends. And, the only places where we might talk in English would be at uni or at school, or maybe.
Right, yes.
I think while answering this question, we have to differentiate, like we have to draw the line, the division line between the social classes, the different social classes here in Egypt. So if we're considering ourselves from the middle class or the middle upper, I don't know, basically the middle class, I think we use Arabic most of the time. But now recently, like the English language is taking its place. Like we use different. Yeah, we talk in Arabic, but we say like certain words in English within the Arabic. So there's a mixture between English and Arabic. And here in Egypt, we have the perception of like people like to do different kind of schools. Like in schools themselves, we have different languages. So for example, I was in a German school, so my first language was supposed to be German. There are lots of people who go to a French school, so we have like mixture of language. But our daily life language is basically Arabic.
Friends, would you like to add something?
I just want to say that like I mostly speak Arabic, but sometimes like I use a few English words and I can't like actually think of the Arabic word. If it's like because I believe that some words you can't find like a literal translation for, so it depends on the context. It depends on who I'm talking to and what I'm talking about. And I also like we have like a lot of words that are now considered Arabic slang, which are actually English, like Kayet, for example, which comes from create or whatever. I don't know.
Okay. So, but we have to also put in mind that the group that we have here and the American University in Cairo in general is not a very representative sample of the mainstream or the majority of the Egyptian culture and social and economic class. This is a private university with, relatively speaking, expensive tuition. So typically the kind of the background of most of the students here will be from the upper middle class, and the insertion of language like English and French into the culture and education is much more of a regular happening than you would see, for instance, within the majority of the society and the country.
Okay, any last statements or questions? Go ahead.
Same thing that he said applies to us, that we're not representative of the larger percentage of the population. We represent like a certain middle to upper middle class section of the minority of the population, and yeah, so the opinions.
Can I ask the last?
I think another trend in India is that the middle class is increasingly using English, not basically out of necessity, because we have so many different languages. I think in this group we have around 4 mother tongues, so that itself is a lot, and in order to communicate we need English. We have no other way around it, so English is more of a necessity in India for the middle class, but still it's a very elite language.
Okay, I think there was a question on our side. This may be our maybe last question. Yes.
Regarding your health sector, I always I had several readings about the use of the homeopathic remedies or like the alternative medicine that your country is famous of. So does it really work? Or I mean like India is one of the most the use of the homeopathic remedies or the alternative medicine in general, like you have the highest or one of the highest countries in that sense. So does it really work? Is it more a cultural thing, or is it scientifically proven, or?
Okay.
Yeah, it works.
Is it in the medical insurance, for example? So how does it,
the alternative forms of medicine that are dominant here are Ayurvedic, which is Indian, and homeopathy, which is which is Greek. But I personally okay, my parents are doctors, so I would and they are allopathic doctors. So in a way, if you ask me, I would say it works on a very belief system. So if you believe those alternative forms of medicines work for you, so they do in a way. I mean, if you take Ayurvedic medicines, some of them have been proven scientifically like they work, but I mean, I would say certain medicines work only when people believe that they work. I wouldn't say it's completely scientifically proven, but I mean, certain parts have been proven, so I guess it works.
If I may, I think the all these alternative systems of medicine were based on science and they were proven. But I think increasingly there are people who practice them in ways that may not be completely scientific, which leads to dubious claims and basically people not trusting in them much more. I think it's also reflective of a change in culture and of what we believe in. We tend to put our faith in Western practices more than traditional. I think that's also...
Yeah, I think also one more reason why people tend to think that Ayurveda or homeopathy doesn't work is because it's more family linked. Because the traditional Ayurvedic medicine would be made up by, say, a grandmother or the older person in your family, and the recipe for that medicine would be passed down through the generations. So there might not be an institutionalization of it, but the properties of that medicine that derive from those specific ingredients have been scientifically proven.
There are also, with each tribal group in India, there are traditions of using plants and flowers for medicine. And actually, this plays a large part in many of the epics and legends. In the Ramayana, there's a place where Hanuman gets and revives people with revives them with a certain herb. So I think the folklore of plant medicine is very, very important in India, representing the union of biological and cultural and linguistic diversity, and how this diversity is valuable. You know, there are many pharmaceutical companies, Indian and global, who are trying to learn how tribal people use plant medicines. And now the Indian government is very protective of the tribal people and their intellectual property rights. So, so this is something that's being developed, and it's certainly an important resource in India. Any other comments about that? Okay. Well, if there are no more comments or questions, we will proceed to end the discussion. What do you say, Professor?
No, I think this has been a very fruitful discussion. I'm definitely hopeful that we can do it sometime soon in the near future. Again, really, I think for the most part, as I said earlier, this is a very different setting from our typical setting. I think for the most part it was very, very interesting, and we definitely thank you for giving us the chance to communicate with you, really, in Madras and in India, definitely for it. I would have to also say that the quality of the picture was really, really good. So this is also amazing. I don't think we've had that quality before in our video conference, which were good prior, but this is very good. I'm not sure if you guys would agree with that, or
yes. This is also the most interesting. So
and yeah, the students here think it was the most interesting. So
great. We're just our remaining 20 students are going to come up and stand behind here just to say hello and goodbye, just so you know that we had a mob here. But we purposely set this up so that we could have a lot of close-ups, because we really feel that close-ups in a video conference are important to get a sense of interaction between individuals. But here's the whole mob. Okay, well, hey. Okay, thank you. Thank you very, very much.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Very goodbye.